Once men turned their thinking over to machines in hopes that this would set them free. But it only allowed other men with machines to enslave them. The result of this was the Great War known as the Butlerian Jihad, and at its conclusion, the ban of all thinking machines. For as the Orange Catholic Bible says, thou shalt not make a machine in the image of human mind. While the story of this war is not gone into detail, it is the premise upon which the universe of the Dune series is set. A world in which human beings have advanced technology such as interstellar space travel, flying machines, weapons, all sorts of things. But they realized that the danger of thinking machines, even the most basic computer, would ultimately lead to something so dangerous that they were willing to set limits on the level of technology they could achieve. So, the last video I made was about artificial intelligence and robots and why the fear that there is a danger in them becoming too advanced, developing sentience, and rebelling, and then becoming the masters of humans, and why that fear is unfounded. And I wanted to make a video that followed up on that went into more detail about the nature of consciousness and the nature of artificial intelligence and computers. And I could make a whole series on this, exploring different facets of it, because the aspect of philosophy that I have really gone into since, I guess, I was in high school is when I started thinking about these ideas, is the nature of consciousness. And I wanted to get into that. But I also wanted to make a video about Dune, because with the upcoming movie, I am super excited. So I'm going to go into detail on the AI issue, and I'm also going to go into some detail about Dune. But it was really cool that I had an epiphany that they intersect. These issues intersect, and they've given me a lot to think about. And so I get to do both in this video. So, the idea of machines becoming self-aware and rebelling against their masters is such a common scientific trope that people have come to believe that it is a serious danger. And also the misperception of computers as analogous to the human brain, and the complexity gives rise to consciousness. And when I first read Dune, I remember that, and I didn't really pay attention to the wording. And because that sci-fi trope is so common of the dangers of robots and artificial intelligence, I kind of had this idea that they were fighting against the artificial intelligence. But what's interesting is that's not what it says. It's a very different thing. And I realized that there actually are some very serious concerns about how AI can be dangerous. And I'm going to explore some speculations about how that might have happened in the Dune universe, and try to see if any of those concepts are applicable in our world. Some I think unlikely. Some aspects I think are more likely. But unlike the issue of machine revolt, which I have come up with some possible caveats for how that might work, that might actually happen. This concept of the use of AI to control people and become a threat to human society and freedom, according to my speculations about what might have happened in Dune, I think are very worth considering as possible situations. So, got some notes here about what I want to talk about. So, it's hard to imagine artificial intelligence or thinking machines becoming so powerful that we would ever be able to actually outlaw them. But I'm going to make a comparison to nuclear weapons. If computers develop to a certain point, and then one group of people, like one government or society, made this massive breakthrough, and then it just really sped up the development of AI. There are some scenarios in which they could use that against the rest of us that I'm going to go into. But whatever that danger was, and we don't know exactly, let's consider a scenario in which Nazi Germany developed the nuke, and they were the only country that was able to figure it out. We happen to be the first, but other countries had the knowledge to work on it and ultimately have developed nukes. But let's just say that they were able to keep it secret. Maybe Einstein hadn't escaped Germany and he was forced to work for them. And they used nukes to take over the world. And perhaps they decided to just nuke a couple countries out of oblivion and said, hey, we got 24 more of these and we're going to come up with some more. And so if you do not surrender, we will just decimate you. Country after country would surrender, and Nazi Germany might end up ruling the world. But let's say there was a coup against Hitler. In actuality, there were attempts at coups. There were members of the Nazi Party who were against Hitler, and they were loyal to their government and their country, but they realized that the ideology was wrong and that Hitler was evil and he needed to be taken out. And let's say that coup occurred. And it just so happened that these men were very honorable and decided to tell the world, we're going to give up our nukes. And we recognize that the world is better if it's not run by a dictatorship. It's hard to imagine people doing that when they all already have that power. But let's just say the new leader of Germany was a really noble man, and he realized that the Nazi ideology was evil and we don't need Nazis ruling the world. And he said, let's get rid of nukes. And so then the UN came together and said, because this danger is so great of anyone having nukes, we are going to completely outlaw any development of any type of nuclear technology to keep this from ever happening. And the world agreed. That might be comparable to a war in which one government or society or planet in this universe used AI in a way that allowed them to take over the world. And however this war happened, whether it was a coup or mass revolt, that the whole all these dozens of planets, they all agreed together were going to stand up to this power, and they were finally overthrown. And they all said, as great as it would be to keep on developing our technology and take advantage of computers, we would rather have a world in which no one government or military is capable of having that much power. And they realized it was so extreme that they were willing to cut it off at the root, and not even allow computers at all. Hard to believe that that could happen, but it's not unthinkable. And we don't know that couldn't happen here. And so there's a couple ideas about why that technology could be dangerous. One is the possibility that their thinking became so advanced that their ability to plan and strategize war gave them such an advantage because they were able to think of every possible outcome. And they were so advanced and had such a store of knowledge that they could accurately predict the psychology and choices of leaders and other people, and be able to predict the strategies of the other side. And once they got in control, their access to that amount of knowledge of what people might think and do meant that they had the ability to predict future crimes against their rules, even thought crimes. And if they had high levels of surveillance, they might be able to surveil the population and, have a big brother sort of thing, and have, cameras in every room of your house. And then the AI would be able to arrest you before you've even committed a crime, like Minority Report. And so people realized that this was so draconian that this AI was able to do this, and it took away human freedom, and it forced people to serve those in charge, because they were in charge of creating the absolutist dictatorial laws and enforce them in a way that took away every ounce of human freedom. And when they were able to finally defeat these men in charge of the thinking machines, they realized that perhaps computers themselves, if you allowed computers to exist, they would inevitably get more advanced, and it would become an inevitability that that advancement would reach that stage. And so they decided, for the sake of humankind and their ability to be free, they would rather limit their capabilities to develop as a society to protect themselves. And you know and yeah, but they were still able to develop other technology, and there actually was a system in place that Dune goes into, where there were certain individuals who had these special cognitive powers, and they were able to act functionally like computers. And so that is what allowed them to do space travel, because that requires a lot of calculations. And so they would use these human computers called mentats. And so because these individuals exist in this universe, it makes it possible for them to function and to grow and develop as a society and explore the universe and inhabit planets without computers. So those are some speculations on what the Butlerian Jihad was about. I love the name. Frank Herbert is great with coming up with really cool words and names. He doesn't say why it was called Butlerian, but as far as I know, there might be more information that I haven't read. I do know that the info is scant. So how does that apply to our society? I do not believe that one country or government or army or society is going to singularly make a breakthrough in technology that just leapfrogs all of humanity so quickly and so immensely that it gives them that sort of strategic advantage in war. However, I do believe that we are headed for a world in which privacy does not exist. And computers, they're already tracking everything you do, and they're put into algorithms. And currently, those algorithms are, the effect on your life is fairly benign. Like they use that to predict what type of ads you're going to look at, or to collect data on demographics. And for the most part, it's not a really threat to your freedom in daily life. But there will come a time when surveillance becomes so extensive that you're already being spied on by the NSA probably, but very few people are actually like affected by it. They're reading your emails, but as long as you're not talking about insurrection or anything, they're not going to worry about. But power corrupts, and a society and a government with the ability to surveil its citizens more and more is going to have more options to control them. And advancements in AI are going to make that so much more possible, because it doesn't require a guy at his desk at the NSA reading your emails. These computers will be able to create algorithms that just figure things out for themselves, figure out things that people are doing, and eventually it's going to be used for more extensive control than just looking for terrorists. And I don't know what all they look for, but let's just say terrorism is the primary thing. Because power corrupts. When you give someone absolute power, it they're going to exercise it. And I'm using the NSA and our government as the example here, because that was the first thing that I thought of. But that is actually not the biggest threat. That was the thought when Orwell wrote Big Brother. He his prediction of the surveillance state and the dictatorship of an absolute control was the government. It's actually, as crazy as it is and as unpredictable as it was, it looks like it's actually private companies, social media, Google, Facebook. They control information and they can censor you and give you consequences for having the wrong political views. They can modify searches so people can only look up things that they want you to look up because they want people to vote a certain way. I posted a satirical picture of Biden that was a fake campaign ad, and it was clearly satire. And Facebook, the algorithms had that picture. They would detect when somebody posted that picture, and they removed it based on the idea that it was spreading false information, and that it was being presented as an actual Biden ad, and therefore they have a duty to make sure that fake news isn't spread. If they are censoring memes and satire, it's going to get more crazy than that. Now they don't have the ability to punish you for thought crimes, but there's a possibility that they will have enough power that they will essentially be able to control the government. I mean, they could actually become a de facto fourth branch of government, possibly, or the government could who knows? Who knows? It's we're entering a period that it's really hard to predict what's going to happen because everything is happening so fast. It's probably gonna get more and more complicated. But I can only make observations. I can only make the observation right now that social media companies and companies like Google are going to be able to continue to use artificial intelligence and algorithms to direct society and censor people. And I believe that eventually, as the government gains access to more and more data, better and better algorithms, and better ability to surveil on people, there's a very good chance that they will start going down a dark path and being used by the president. And the president will say, hey, that's a potential terrorist. We need to lock him up. And so that I would consider the danger of AI. It's not so much robots with artificial intelligence systems. not true AI, but advanced ability to make decisions on their own. I don't think that's the primary danger. I say if we're already fighting wars and we're trying to use the best tactics that get the job done the best, um, and we're actually fighting a just war, I say get those humanoid robots on the battlefield and put a gun in their hand, because they're gonna do a better job. It's just like somebody developing, the stealth bomber to more efficiently kill. Um, and because I don't think there's really danger of them revolting, they don't have any reason to. I don't think that they would be a threat to us. There are some caveats to that, which I want to get into probably in another video. I do think that there are potential threats of robot soldiers doing things they weren't programmed to do. They could, be hacked by the enemy and turn on us, or there's a bug, or the machine is trying to make a difficult decision and it ends up making the wrong decision. But glitches and mistakes happen in war all the time, and so that's something. Friendly fire happens. Explosives are not handled correctly, and somebody blows themselves up and a few other people with them by accident. Things like that happen. So the real danger is not the fact that these robots would be too intelligent or become self-aware or make the choice to decide they don't want to serve their masters anymore. It's more other issues that could happen. So the point is, any danger of robots used in military are not related to them being too advanced to the point where they become self-aware. And for that reason, we do not need to fear the advancement of AI in robots for that reason. The only thing we have to fear are other factors, such as glitches, such as, sabotage by the enemy, things like that. You could have a rogue programmer who's actually being paid by the Russians, who goes in and programs them to do things they're not supposed to do. But again, there's always risks in war. There are always mistakes. There are always tactics of sabotage, and our guys could do the same thing to other people's robots. So those are my thoughts on the future of AI, robots, their use of war and their danger. And so bringing up Dune was a really great jumping off point. It really got me thinking about the future of AI and robots. And so point being, I do not discount the possibility of AI being a threat to human society. I just don't believe. I simply believe that it is based on a completely different issue than the classic sci-fi trope that so many people are worried about. And the reason they're worried about it is because of science fiction and a misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness, and which is one of the greatest mysteries in the world. And there is no basis for assuming that increasing the complexity in a machine will cause consciousness to emerge. Is it possible? It's a hypothesis that I cannot completely rule out, but there is zero evidence that this is the case. It's based on a lot of assumptions, and it's based on misunderstanding how the brain works, how consciousness works, and I'm going to get into that and why looking at the brain as a type of computer is not the correct understanding of how the brain works. And I've discovered that through a variety of means, philosophical pondering, the study of how consciousness works, logic, the rejection of materialism, which I can make a case for, and I have a lot of arguments for why there's. Let's get into that in the next video. I'm just going to conclude with that. Next video, I'm going to sort of get into sort of more of the nitty-gritty of how this idea that that's going to happen is not just, I have arguments against it, but I don't really even need a whole lot of arguments against it because it is dependent on a hypothesis for which there is no evidence for. And it is speculatory that this will happen. And it's a guess. And it's a guess based on the fact that the advancement of our brains is related to consciousness. So I can understand why people might think the same thing is true for computer systems. But it's not even a theory. It is a hypothesis. It is a claim. And I'm going to explain why I'm saying there is no evidence for it whatsoever. So is it possible? I can't rule it out. But I haven't heard any reason anybody make a case for why this will happen. Other than that it's a guess. And so, I can't rule out a lot of things. That there's a teapot flying around Mars. Is it possible? I can't rule it out, but it's up to you to demonstrate evidence that it will happen. And there is no evidence whatsoever that increase that a complex computer system will cause subjective consciousness to arise. And that might surprise some people. And they say, what are you talking about? There's a lot of evidence. I'll explain later. So that's all I got to say for now. I think before I get into that, I've got a lot to think about. And so I think my next video is going to be a little less philosophical because I got to think about this some more. And my brain is a little bit tired of too much pondering. So next video, we're going to talk Dune. And I am going to make a video about it just to talk about how excited I am about it. And all the reasons why the series is great and why it's going to be so exciting to watch. So stick around. If you watch this, I think my last video about AI got 0 views. So, but you know, I wish somebody watched it. Put a lot of work into that. But you know, my hope is that eventually, you know, I'll get more views, and you know, some people will go back and watch some of them, even if they're not watching them now. I'm taking making this channel seriously. And I think I'm getting better at making videos and exploring topics, and I'm a little less worried about rambling. I think it takes some practice getting used to not being self-conscious and just getting used to making videos to be able to be more articulate and clear about what I'm saying, and you know, practicing, you know, sort of emoting and being expressive and sort of pulling out sort of the acting side of me, you know, to be entertaining and engaging, and that includes just showing personality and not just being like. So I was thinking about this, you know, like, you know, sort of like, you know, like a boring robot saying, "Greetings, thank you for watching my video. I have been considering making another video about artificial intelligence." You know, something like that. That's my imitation of, you know, fake AI voices. So another off topic is I've just finished hanging up, covering the walls of my new room with paintings, and I'm doing it to decorate my room, but I also was thinking about, since I started off with using this as my backdrop, I just thought it would be cool to just try to make this corner be a good backdrop. You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of really great channels, and they're not artists. They're YouTubers, and you got boring backgrounds, just a white wall and maybe a couple decorations, and they're successful because they're good at expressing their ideas, and but I'm an artist, and so I'm going to employ aspects that I know how to do to add another level of interest, and I'm just really excited about this sort of thing. So if you're bored by the topic, or you don't find me interesting, maybe you'll watch, because it's cool to see what I got covered. I didn't paint this, but everything else I painted. But that's a topic for another time. Where I wanna discuss, you know, ideas for YouTube. I'll probably make some videos in which I go down a list of different ideas. You know, maybe I really want to make a podcast. essentially. And I'm kind of viewing this. I think that it might be a good idea to instead of just doing one topic or just going on tangents about things I'm thinking, I might want to like have a list of topics and say, you know, here's the daily news, here's what's happening in the world, here's what's happening in my life, here's some thoughts that I'm having. I'm gonna just explore them, and I'm just gonna hit as many topics as possible. I think I might do that. So anyway, that's all I got. My viewer, if you are out there, or if a couple of you are out there, or in 10 years when I'm famous, the thousands of people who are going to go back and watch all my videos, you know, I'll be the top YouTuber. I'll be, you know, making millions on my channel. I don't expect that, but I do want to gain followers, and I've got 12 right now. Let's talk YouTube plans another video. In conclusion, I've used the Dune series as a jumping off point to discuss possible dangers of AI. And next video, let's get into Dune.